or landscape architect for a body of work executed over time and distinguished by design excellence and outstanding use of natural stone. The list of design professionals who have past winners of this prestigious award includes architects Malcolm Holzman, Cesar Pelli, Henry Cobb, Robert Frasca, and Robert A.M. Stern, and landscape architects Paul Friedberg, Lawrence Halprin, Laurie Olin, and Peter Walker. Here with us today to introduce this year's recipient is George Bybee, brother of the award namesake Daniel Bybee.
Hi guys, my name is George Bybee, and just a side note, my brother would really like this building that we're having this in today. I would like to thank the National Stone Institute for continually honoring my brother with this very prestigious award. This year, the prize winner is Carol Johnson, founder of Carol Johnson Associates. It's with deep regret Carol cannot be here tonight, and we have Catherine Offenberg, the principal at the Boston office, here to accept the award right now.
Thank you, George, members of the National Stone Institute, and Jane. Thank you for your warmth and hospitality. I'm honored to be here to accept the award, Bybee Prize, on Carol's behalf. She is very deeply humbled and moved by your acknowledgement of her work, and I promise to share every minute of my experience with her this evening and tell her about all of the other award recipients. I know she would have been very inspired by tonight's program. Carol Johnson inherited a love of gardening and the outdoors from her parents. She's an avid hiker and cites her love of landscape and the natural material from camping and sleeping under the stars. After graduating from Wellesley College in 1951, she was working and living at a plant nursery in Bedford, Massachusetts, where she met a student from Harvard's Graduate School of Design who encouraged her to study landscape architecture. She took his advice. As a student at the GSD, she embraced the collaborative process and a commitment to environmentally sensitive design, concepts which remain cornerstones of her practice today. She received her landscape architecture degree from Harvard in '57, was hired by TAC, the Architects Collaborative, in '58, and just 1 year later started her own practice, thinking her moonlighting jobs might be enough to employ her full-time. Carol based her practice upon the traditional values of dedicated public service and unrelenting insistence upon quality in design and construction, and educating future practitioners about the social value of good design. Within 8 years, Carol had built a practice with a small staff that jettisoned her to the world stage of design, collaborating with Buckminster Fuller and Cambridge 7 Associates on the landscape design for the U.S. Pavilion at the Montreal Expo in 1967. Over her career of nearly 60 years, Carol brought dozens of people into the practice of landscape architecture. Many of these people have gone on to found and lead prominent firms of their own across the U.S. One of Carol's greatest achievements is her contribution of restoring, Carol's design legacy is built upon the basic principles that she learned at Harvard: preservation, environment, and community. The early projects she designed for Lyndon Johnson's Model Cities program in Lowell, Massachusetts, were formative in developing her commitment to community and to infusing her work with reference to cultural and natural environments. In the North Common, shown here, she included a stone amphitheater, which is still actively used for performances and community events today. At the Bartlett School in Lowell, another part of the Model Cities program, she designed a painted game on the pavement which used symbols from immigrant groups who were part of the Lowell community at the time. Now, one of her greatest achievements is her contribution to restoring urban waterfronts. Working with engineers and soil scientists, she has helped to restore many miles of our coastline. One of her most significant waterfront transformations was for the Mystic River Reservation, 80 acres of toxic landfill north of Boston, seen here on the right. Here, soil scientists Pine and Swallow assisted Carol in reestablishing a healthy planting medium in which plants could grow again and people would be safe to play on the lawn and explore the shoreline. Carol's commitment to waterfront transformation is central to her designs for Old Harbor Park and Leechmere Canal Park, shown here in before and after conditions. And I'll speak about these two projects in more detail later in the presentation. Carol's reach and design focus is not focused only on the Northeast or on waterfront restoration. She's keenly interested in the special bond that people form with college campuses, and she's left an equally significant legacy shaping campuses across the country. And here are a few examples of her work in Georgia at Agnes Scott College and Spelman College in the top row, and in Florida at Rollins College and Stetson University on the bottom row. Her work at college and universities often begins with comprehensive landscape master plans, and it's led to implementation work that has lasted for decades. Work on college and university campuses is still the mainstay of our practice today. In addition to teaching and leading our practice, Carol was active in local and national chapters of the American Society of Landscape Architects. She served on many boards and committees. For 10 years, she was a civic design commissioner for the city of Boston. She has many honorary degrees, and in 1998, she was the first American woman to receive the ASLA Gold Medal, which is the Society's highest award. So for this evening, I've selected 6 of Carol's projects to share with you in more detail. Each one shows her use of stone to shape space, to create a permanent sense of place, and to provide a tactile experience for the public. For Old Harbor Park, seen here in Dorchester, a historic neighborhood on the southern edge of Boston, Carol oversaw a dramatic transformation as part of the revitalization of the Columbia Point public housing project, which had become terribly neglected and a dangerous place. Carol's search for expression of the cultural and natural environment was particularly important at Old Harbor Park. Here she wanted to celebrate the site and to invite the public to rediscover and flock to enjoy the magnificent views of Boston Harbor. Carol's design includes a massive plaza that reaches out to the water, providing 180-degree views, and granite steps that allow the public down to the water's edge. The centerpiece of the plaza is a large stone medallion engraved with historical details about the harbor. The steps are framed with stone markers which are inscribed with historical references to the site's previous use as a spot for flounder fishing. Carol took pride in noticing how the public's walking pace slowed down on the esplanade and in seeing how people engaged with the stone. At John F. Kennedy Park in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Carol designed the only landscape memorial dedicated in the U.S. to the late president. The chosen site was once an oil-contaminated mass transit maintenance yard. Carol designed the park as a restful green space. The centerpiece of the park is a memorial fountain. Carol's inspiration for the fountain came from one of her hikes in New Hampshire. She saw water cascading over granite in a gorge called the Flume. She thought it would capture the public sentiment to read inscriptions of the president's speeches through streams of water. JFK's daughter Caroline selected quotations from her father's City Upon a Hill speech to be carved into the granite walls. Invariably, visitors will pause while reading the excerpts, bend over to touch the words through the moving water. The president's family also assisted Carol in selecting a warm-colored granite from New England to make this memorial a celebration of his life in Massachusetts, a contrast to the dark, somber gray granite used at his gravesite in Arlington. Carol gained national recognition for the design of John Marshall Park in Washington, D.C. Her design provides both a plaza setting where crowds can gather and separate green areas for relaxation for a more intimate sense of space. The design is integrated into the overall streetscape along Pennsylvania Avenue, access to the district court on one side, and the Canadian Embassy on the other. The overall granite paving pattern is based on the original L'Enfant plan for Washington. The site includes an 8-foot grade change between C Street and Pennsylvania Avenue, which Carol divided into 3 levels. The level just above the Pennsylvania Avenue is mostly paved so it can accommodate crowds who come to watch the inaugural and other parades. The level at C Street, where she placed fountains to commemorate the first public water supply in DC, is also mostly paved, providing a ceremonial platform for the statue of John Marshall, which rests on a white granite base facing Pennsylvania Avenue. The statue and plaza are framed by bosses of trees, which provide shade to people from nearby offices who eat lunch in the park. The level in the middle is mostly green. Several years ago, the John Marshall Foundation asked Carol to redesign the park as a memorial to Marshall. Carol revised the design based on an ellipse, a characteristic form in Washington, which makes it possible to have 4 interpretive rooms about Marshall's life and still have separate spaces for community relaxation and children's games as exist today. Her proposed design includes granite walls inscribed with excerpts of Marshall's written decisions. Additional interpretive information about Marshall's career and life will be integrated into the final design. The Lechmere Canal Park area, which I previewed a few slides back, is a recovered bit of our industrial past in East Cambridge, north of Boston. This award-winning design catalyzed the revitalization of a neglected neighborhood and was the focal point of a successful urban redevelopment effort. The reclaimed canal was made accessible to park users, green space was maximized, and historical details were incorporated to give the park life and interest and entice visitors to return. Shops around the area have prospered with the completed revitalization effort. Carol's bold use of granite gives the design its distinctive framework: wide granite seat walls, curbs, steps, and coping at the canal edge contrast with brick pavers to bring a crisp level of finish, a newness, to this previously neglected waterfront. There we go. For a new U.S. embassy in Tunis, Tunisia, Carol drew on the character of Islamic garden tradition to create a series of shaded courtyards. a central stone feature, water feature linked to a network of runnels. Oh my goodness, sorry. A central stone water feature linked to a network of runnels convey collected rainwater to planted areas. Here, Carol collaborated with Taisu Kim architects in selecting granite and tile that evoke the warm hues of local stone and pay homage to popular Tunisian colors and styles. And I'm sorry that our photos don't do justice to the beauty of this project. There we go. One of Carol's last projects was the design of Kittredge Park in Boston's Roxbury community. The celebration of this neighborhood's involvement in groundbreaking social justice movements was a key inspiration to her design. Working with a local artist, Carol and her staff created an interactive water feature that honors the abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison. If you look carefully at the midsection of the fountain, if I can do this, here, you can see Garrison's profile playfully shaped in the negative relief of stone.
Cool.
Showing some playfulness and also realizing that design of public space needs to be flexible, Carol provided pedestals and platforms of granite for people to use as they wish. The granite here is Deer Isle. Carol likes to check on the durability of her projects, even those that are 40 years or more old. She looks for the same qualities she originally designed into the plans: continuity, legacy, quality. She once said, "Some of them have stood the test of time, some have changed with the times. For the ones that have changed, on the one hand, I'm disappointed, on the